like I said, he's a senior investment officer with CEDS Finance in the Denver metro area. And he is in charge of, or he leads small business lending and credit uh, aspects with CEDS. So he is super clued into small business owners and what we all need and what we're all wanting to ask, but maybe don't have the languaging for. I know I certainly don't. So I'm super excited to learn from Juan alongside all of you as well. So Juan, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit, give a little bit more of your background and jump in. We're super excited.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Vanessa, for this invitation. My name is Juan. I've been working with CEDS Finance for almost 4 years. I was initially an investment officer, then became a senior investment officer. At this point, I lead underwriting, the documentation process, the application process, the approval process as well. I meet with multiple people, multiple applicants, such as every day, every week, and speak about your needs. Are you looking for funding? Are you ready for funding? Do you have the funding you need, but you're lacking the technical assistance part? I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs, and thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to talk about equity investments versus standard long-term debt, and that's why I'm here. So thank you for the invitation, Olivia. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. So we're gonna talk about different ways of funding a business. Two times. There's two different ways. One of them is debt, as we all know, or equity. Uh, there's a bad misconception about debt, which is not necessarily an accurate thing. Problems normally occur when we choose the wrong one, whether it's funding through debt or through equity. My goal here today is to help you guys understand how each one works. What do we look when making an investment or when making a loan, and how can we think? What are the things we're looking at when analyzing a proposal or a loan application or even a venture or a pitch. Why this matters? Capital is really important for every business. It helps us grow. It helps us buy inventory, fund operations, but it can also make problems worse. And the thing is, we need to make sure that the way we fund the business kind of matches what we're looking for. What do we want to do matches the way we get funding. I have a question for you guys. How many of you have thought about funding but are not sure where to go or what to do? Or are you looking for an investment or am I looking for debt? So this is really, really important. Let's start with the basics of debt financing. Debt financing is your straightforward business loan. You borrow money from an entity, you agree to pay it back, and you're going to pay some interest for that. There's a schedule, there's an amortization table, there's a monthly payment, and there's an end date. You start an obligation of repaying, and you have an end date for that obligation, and that's it. You're done. You keep ownership on your business. You're not actually selling pieces of your business for a loan. You're just asking for that, and you keep ownership. You keep control of your business. You don't need to, if I lend, I don't know, Roger $100,000, I'm not gonna tell Roger how to run his business. It's his business. I'm just here to kind of, finance an operation or finance equipment or whatever that is. But I have no say in how he runs his business because he is the sole owner. Uh, However, it's going to be important to say that this is all about cash flow. So that means that if sales dip, you still have to do payments. And this is something I mentioned a lot with applicants here living in Colorado when we have snow most of the time. Hopefully, we'll have snow soon. We have multiple applicants that they have food trucks, right? And normally, food truck sales dip in this month, in Q1 of the fiscal year. And that's normally an issue because sales drop. Nonetheless, they still have to do payments. So it's really important to consider that debt financing kind of matches the cash flow and kind of matches the operation and the cash flow of the business. Um, how do we think when we're not looking for an approval? When I look at a business loan and when I look at an application, we always look at cash flow. Cash flow is always going to be king. When we're looking for debt, we're looking for low risk. And the way we do this is looking at past performance, meaning I want to look at your past, at your previous revenue, previous sales, P&Ls, and when I want to make sure that that is consistent, that that is profitable, and that I'm looking for perfection. I'm just looking to, I want to see your finances. Um, I'm not looking a lot at the future, really. I'm not looking at projections. I'm looking at historical data. If this is a startup, we will then, yes, focus on a business plan, but we will put a lot of attention on assumptions. Let's say you want to start a restaurant. I want to make sure that your expectations on sales, on average ticket price, on days open is actually consistent with reality. And we want to focus a lot on making sure that these are realistic, that you're not expecting to make, $1 million on month one, which, might be the case. But it's, we don't see that happening often. We want to be conservative. We want to make sure that you have liquidity when approving a loan because many things happen. We actually assume we're going to spend on expenses, I don't know, $1,000 and we end up spending, 1,600, right? So how does that play out with the cash flow? So even when we assume you're going to have some revenue and some expenses, we got to make sure that the cash flow is actually flexible enough to repay debt, right? So we're looking for a cash flow. Moving on to equity investing, that is just a different animal. That means selling a piece of your business, right? I'm going to give you money, but I'm going to own 50% of your business or 20% of your business. So you are actually selling, you're trading actually equity for funds, really. There's no monthly payment, meaning you don't have to repay me on month one. I'm not really worried about your revenue right now. I'm looking for growth. What's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? I'm looking for profits in the future, or I'm looking for an exit. Meaning, what if I'm looking for a buyout? Let's say I invest in your business right now, and I sell, my portion of the property of the company in 10 years, right? How does that look like? So it's all about the future. It's all about projections. It's all about uh, profit distribution too. There's many ways for us to make money. One of them is, I'll invest $100,000 in your business, but I'm gonna own 20% of all profits, and you're gonna give that to me because I own part of your business. Um, Something really important is owner delusion. You're not going to be the owner of 100% of your business anymore. Meaning, if I own 20% of your business, I'm going to have a say on your business. I can tell, let's say I'm going to keep the example with Roger. He sells 20% of his business to me and I give him $100,000. I have a say in how he runs things. I can give an opinion on that because I own the company. I own part of the company. So that means that, we can have disagreements, right? And maybe Roger doesn't like what I have to say. Nonetheless, he took the money and he's only part of the company, right? So that's the trade-off of equity investments versus a debt. And the most important piece on equity investments is that there's no monthly payment. You don't need to repay me right now. That means that I'm not gonna mess with your cash flow. Your cash flow is still gonna work, run as smoothly as normally, and you don't need to add some extra pressure on making those payments. How do we think when looking at an investment? Um, we don't care about profitability right now. I don't care about how much money you're making right now. I worry about growth. What's going to happen? I don't care about making $10,000 right now. I worry about making $1 million in 8 years, right? So let's say I have a profit agreement with you. I give you $100,000 for equity investment. I own 20% of your profits, right? I don't care about 20% of $10,000 right now. I care about 20% of $1 million down the road. So it's all about the future. It's all about projections. It's all about really evaluating the team. It's evaluating opportunities, evaluating growth, and evaluating projections. Like how do I see this company in 8 years? I'm not really analyzing a company right now. I'm analyzing that company, 10 years down the road, 8 years down the road. Is the risk of me investing $100,000 right now worth, $1 million of profit for me in 10 years down the road? So it's a lot of, it's very different. Projections, I mean, small equity investment is looking more towards the future, while debt financing is looking more toward the past. Equity investment are more of a high risk kind of financing, while debt is kind of low risk. We're trying to be very, very conservative. Business stage really, really matters. Normally, a lot of early stage companies or entrepreneurs kind of struggle with debt. And that is when you're starting a business, your cash flow is kind of small. You're getting a business, you don't have a lot of clients, you're starting to ramp up sales. If you add a debt payment to that cash flow, that's going to have some issues with your cash flow. That means you're going to lose a lot of flexibility, as you're going to have a fixed payment that you have to do every month, whether sales dip or you're doing great. So debt at the beginning might be a little bit risky from a cash flow perspective. um, as business start to grow, as you kind of ramp up your sales, your revenue, and you are in a kind of growing phase, it's easier for you to get debt. Number one, you have historical data, so I can go to your P&L and see your revenue, and you have cash flow. You're able to inject, to add to your debt payments, $500 or $1,000 per month, and you're still making money, and you have a flexible enough cash flow to make those payments. Um, Mature companies, by the other hand, normally prefer debt that equity, and that is they're so mature. They have so many, history on sales. They don't need to sell part of their company for more debt, for more equity. So it's easier for them to actually get debt. It's cheaper at many times, and there's lower risk. Something important to mention is that capital strategy, or the way you actually get capital or funding, should basically evolve as your business evolves. That means it's highly unusual for a startup to get a big chunk of debt. Normally, here at CEDS Finance, when we're looking for us to finance through debt a small business, we normally top it up at 15, 20, or up to $25,000. It's very uncommon for us to see or to actually fund a company looking for $100,000 when it's just a small business. And that is because when it's just a startup, it's really tricky for us to find a way to kind of mitigate the risk of $100,000. By the other hand, it's quite usual and normal to see businesses running since 2015 or 2017, which have 5, 7, 10 years of experience, being able to get $100,000 for funding, because we have that history. We know the companies. It's easier for us to kind of see that track record and kind of mitigate the risk, because we are able to see, these are the sales, these are the profits. It's easy to see that cash flow, and there's less assumptions to be made. Finally, for you, I have a couple of key takeaways. Um, Capital should support your business. It's not supposed to stress it out. If you get into debt payments and you get debt to finance your business, and you're struggling with a cash flow, that's not okay. That's not the right way to do it. Cash flow and the debt is supposed to kind of enhance your performance, to enhance your operations, to increase revenue, not to actually limit your cash flow. If this is happening, that might not be the right thing for you. Also, that does demand a lot of discipline. You need to do monthly payments. You cannot miss monthly payments. Normally, on a startup, we will report to your credit bureau too. So the main borrower is the company, but it's going to be we're going to have a co-signer, which is going to be the owner of the company, and you're going to see that happen in very different lenders. So you have some skin in the game, right? Your name is on the agreement as well. You got to make sure that you don't miss a single payment, and that demands just a lot of discipline with a startup. Um, are you willing to give control or ownership of your business? If you are looking for a mentorship, if you're looking for support on how to run your business, equity might be the right way for you. Whether in debt, I have no say in your business. I revise your cash flows. I look at your bank statements, your business plans, but I have no say in how you run your business. It's yours, right? I'm just a creditor. I just gave you money to run your business, and you owe me that money back, and that's it. So if you're willing and open to hear feedback, and many times gonna have you know discussions about how to run a business and where a business is going, that's gonna be equity, not debt. And finally, we gotta make sure that your cash flow is flexible enough. So what happens if revenue drops 20%? Are you still able to make payments? If that's no, then maybe that is not for you. Whether if you're looking for an equity investment, if sales drop 20%, you're fine because you don't owe me anything by month one. An equity investment or an investor really is going to be okay with the risk, and they are well aware that sales might drop, and that's completely fine because they are getting into a high risk venture. They're not looking for revenue right now. They're looking for revenue in year 7, 8, or 10, right? So that's a little bit of the difference between equity investments and loans. I can say that a loan application is going to be way, way simpler than an equity investment just because of the mostly of the amount. Um, Equity investments are going to be probably higher than an average loan size. The average loan size here at CEDS Finance is around like $31,000, $32,000. We can do loans up to $100,000, whether there's other nonprofits in the area, such as CEF, B-Side, Energies Colorado, which can do up to maybe a couple $1 million in lending. When we're talking about an investor, you're going to need way more data. You're going to need to analyze projections. You're going to do a pitch. You're going to need to basically convince them with your projections that your business will be profitable for in 7, 8 years. Whether for me, you don't need to convince me of your future. You really need to convince me on your past. You're going to convince me that your cash flow is good, it's profitable, then I can easily add, a monthly payment of 100,000 of, $1,000, and you'll still be fine. You'll still be able to repay me back. And that is, on a nutshell, the big difference on equity investments and debt. So that's it for now. I'm open to any questions you might have.
Awesome. Thank you, Juan. That was so informative. If anyone has any questions, we have a few minutes. You can drop them in the chat, or unmute yourself, and ask away.
Yeah, thank you, Juan. Is it okay if anyone on the call reaches out to you after this?
Of course, yeah, I can drop my email on the chat. If anyone has some specific questions, please make sure to reach me. We can schedule a one-on-one and go over your application or your situation and see if I can definitely assist you.
Thank you so, so much. Yeah, speak now or forever hold your peace if you have a question for Juan. Any hands up? Well, hopefully this was a good reminder if you already knew some of this information or a really helpful foundation if you hadn't heard some of this before. So I know I learned something and I always appreciate that. Thank you, Juan. You can go ahead and stop sharing your screen.
Thank you.
And I am stopping the